It's time for the Creator Town Hall here on Studio Live today. And I'd like to bury the lead, but you've probably already seen the thumbnail, which means that, yeah, you know that my guest tonight is the one, the only, the indescribable, the undeniable. She's not there. Jade Starr. Ish.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, Pete. Thanks for having me on the show. Hello, everybody in the chat.
Oh, thank you for being here. If you saw the pre-show, you'd be like just like ready to go. This is going to be so professional. This is going to be two people at the top of their game. And I say that not blaming Jade because it was all me. All of the bad stuff that was going on. I couldn't get my audio working. There was reverb. There was delay. Nothing was working beforehand. But we're here, and we're here to talk about all things creativity, including music education. Jade, what is your music education journey? Are you educated in this music caper that we pretend to talk about all the time?
Funnily enough, I actually am. Yes. I know it sounds stupid, but I am. So, look, guys, if you had seen us backstage, seriously, you would have thought, are these two characters YouTubers or what? What
have they ever done this before? What's going on? Why is that one so red? What's going on?
How do you turn this knob up? It was horrible. No, I actually am. My music journey, I have lots of people on my show when I interview them, and I always ask, how did your music journey start? Did you have lessons and all that kind of thing? I never had lessons on guitar, which most people would probably be able to see that, because I just used to like to thrash out, and I still do. And
nothing wrong with that.
When I got my first guitar, it was an Onyx. It was horrible. It was
I remember Onyx.
Red 3/4 guitar. It was cherry red. It was terrible. But how I started to learn was to run around the backyard with it not plugged in, just getting this hand down. Now, I know what you're thinking. I've got this hand down pretty good, but that's actually this hand because I'm left-handed. Anyway, no. But I learned how to chug. And without actually being plugged in, I'd run around the backyard listening to Iron Maiden and Slayer and Metallica, just going. But after that, in year 11, our Victorian government here, we were the first state to run this initiative for the VCE school program. We changed from HSC, I think it was, to VCE. And they did this test pilot where for year 12, your last year at school, you paid $500 a year and you got put into this amazing music thing. And the whole thing was music first and science, maths, English and Australian studies kind of second. And from day one, they split you up into three different bands. And in the next 3 months, you had to learn 50 covers. And learn how to play in a band and pick an instrument and learn. And I had a singing teacher. I had a guitar teacher. It was really, really amazing. And that went on for a whole year. And then we started playing high schools. And then we ended up going on a tour at the end of the year with Midnight Oil in 1927. And that was my introduction to lessons and actually having a consistent flow of lessons. And then after that, I went on to the Victorian Victorian College of Arts for two years. So that's my education.
So that's a fair amount of formal education, and that's probably the question I want to throw out here to folks that are watching live, or if you're catching up on the replay, because I know this isn't great for our Canadian and US friends who I know many people around this channel and our communities. But what is your experience? That's what we're going to throw out there. What's your experience with formal education? Because we're going to talk about music education, the value of it. Clearly, Jade and I both give out most of our stuff for free. We give it away for free, Jade. I don't know if you know that. Right here on YouTube. Every day. So you've got that option, but there are other options out there for music education. So tell your stories. Tell us your war stories of your early days or your music education journeys. Do you believe that actual paid music education is a thing? Have you been to college? I know that there's many folks around that are thinking about, do you buy courses? Do you do all those sort of things? We'll be talking about all of that today. And I've got some stuff that I want to show here as well. There was an interview with Tim Minchin and a guy by the name of Lawrence Krauss, who is actually a scientist which is a bit weird, but he's a really cool dude. And there was a podcast interview. It was like 2 hours long, and I've got some clips that we're going to play that are kind of sparking. That they're going to get the juices flowing in terms of us talking about music education. But that is all to come. But why don't we say good day to the fine folks who are here? Because I know that you know many of these wonderful folks. We've got Bass Car Check here. We've got half of the Indigo Sunsets, Mr. Andy Goldsby Music. We've got some Australians here. We've got Guzzo of Oz. We've got Gregory O'Sullivan. And we've got Maffey's Garden up there in Queensland as well. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Who else did I see here? We've got this man who I think there's an extra U. Do you want to do a bit of a Jamie Mallender dude for us, Jade?
Dude!
I've got this theory that Jamie Mallender is actually falling down a bottomless pit, and every time he's just like, "No, seriously, I need help. I'm really in trouble here, guys."
I've actually been working on my Jamie Mallender impersonation, but I'm not.
Can we hear it?
I don't think I'm ready. Hello,
No, not ready.
welcome to Jamie TV. No, I'm not ready yet. I've got to practice it more. But it will be coming. It will be coming.
Oh, I like it. Hello, Hudson James. Hello to Auntie G, our friend Gertrude from up in Norway. See, the reason I love these shows is that we do them at a time that many of the folks that can't join us, because we get up ridiculously early and do most of our videos in the wee hours for us, which helps our US and Canadian friends, but we don't see as many of our UK and Europe friends. So it's great to have them here. Including this guy. Do you have a Patrick from the GarageBand Guide impersonation, Jade, that you can pull out at short notice?
Do I? Look, I may not get the accent right, but it's all about the inflection. Hello, Patrick here from the GarageBand Guide. There you go. There it is.
I love it. Very cool.
It's all about the spacing between the words, I've learnt. It's not about the accent, because I'll never get that right. Love you, Patrick.
That was perfect, Patrick. We do indeed love you. Thank you for being here. And Clayton Von Cluj has snuck on in. We've got Marcus Cannell here as well. And Dave the Fox is here too. Thank you for being here. Jade, for the 1% of people that don't know who you are, because we didn't actually do any introductions, do you want to let folks know who you are, what you do, and why you're here? Oh, we can't really explain that. But who you are and what you do here on the YouTubes.
I'm Jade Starr. I'm a musician primarily. I happen to be trans, and it's not a deal unless you make it one. Look, I've been playing music my whole life. I've done theatre productions. I've worked in the corporate world. You name it, I've done it. Jumped out of aeroplanes. I'll try anything 3 times, because the first time you'll do it with somebody who doesn't know how to do it well. The second time you'll do it wrong. By the third time you'll know if you like it or not. But yeah, I just like to put my finger in anything. God, that came out wrong, didn't it?
I told you it would be a fun one.
Primarily a vocalist, yeah. So
yes.
Talking about, learning and lessons and stuff, I am a vocalist, and I'm primarily, that's what I went to school to do. I used to have a 6-octave range. It's probably down to about 5 now because life. And I used to teach vocals as well for a few years as well. I'm glad I don't do that anymore, but that's me in a nutshell. Now I sit on YouTube and talk bollocks every day about apps.
It is true. She does. And if you wanted to check out Jade's channel, here it is. If 50 of you that are feeling really frisky can just go and subscribe right now, she'll get 2,000 subscribers while we do this show. So, we've got 15 people watching, and I'm pretty sure all 15 of those are subscribed to you already. But if you're watching this on the replay and you're not already subscribed to Jade, what would the Metalhead Hippie say about your channel, Jade?
Boom. So, folks...
Exactly right. And the cool thing is that the reason that I love Jade and I love what she does is that it means that I don't have to review all these new apps, because she spends an hour every morning reviewing all the apps. And I think 2 years ago, before you started this channel, I'm like, I don't want to review these. She was in the GarageBand users Facebook group, like telling people about all these apps and what they can do and how they can do it. And I'm like, could you just tell people how to, I don't think I coined the term, but how to use their apps in iOS? And you're like, okay, I'll create a channel called How to App on iOS, and I'll do that every day just for you, Pete. And I'm like, thank you. And then you did. And then 500. Are you coming to 500 episodes? Is that what I heard you were saying before?
500. On the same day as you are celebrating 6 years. We are celebrating on the same day, man. It's so cool. Well, I used to sit in your chat, and I used to post links to apps. when you know, and
Yep.
I found myself doing that more than anything now, and it was like, yeah, that was the inconvenience hit, the great inconvenience of 2020
Inconvenience.
is
I
what
like
I
it.
call it.
I like it.
And it was like, I've got nothing to do. I'm going to build a studio and sit here and talk about these apps instead of posting links in Pete's chat. And you know, these days now, I don't even really post many links at all because Thomas does it all.
I know. How good
Hey,
is it that
Thomas.
we have? Shout out to the moderators, the unsung heroes of YouTube that just basically sit in the chat and make sure everyone plays nice, which is pretty easy around our communities. I got to be honest, but make sure people play nice and post links and just be generally nice, cool, awesome people all the time. Let's jump into our feature topic here today because we've got one topic and it's a bit weird. Because we normally talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but I just wanted to talk about education. I was so inspired. Like, for those that don't know the artist Tim Minchin, he's in everything. So he's a pianist, he's a singer-songwriter, he's a musical comedic genius. He wrote the musical Matilda and Groundhog Day, which were big, like, well, Matilda was. Groundhog Day kind of didn't do that well. But Matilda did amazingly. Broadway, all through London, all around Australia. So he's a multi-talented creator. And he was actually on, as I mentioned earlier today, the Lawrence Krauss podcast, and Lawrence Krauss is like a physicist and a scientist. And you might be thinking, well, was there much of a relationship there? Well, I think there kind of is. And there are a bunch of topics that they talked about. And what I thought we'd do for a bit of fun here today is that I'll play a little clip, and we're probably going to get in trouble because I haven't cleared any of this with Tim or with Lawrence.
You
So
won't, Pete.
we
You-
could be.
You never do. You're just
Never
too
do.
careful.
It's fine.
You're too careful.
It'll be good. So I'm going to play a few clips. So the first clip that we're going to play here, and this could go, like, if you can't hear the audio, that's probably because Pete's messed up his mixer because we were testing it beforehand and it didn't quite work out. The first clip here we're going to play is from earlier in the interview, and I'll link the interview as well at the end of the show so you can check out the whole thing. But this is about science versus art. Can you be a practical person and an artistic person at the same time? Can you use the left side of your brain and the right side of your brain at the same time? Does it actually work? So let's take a listen to this. I'll see if I can get the audio working right, and we'll take a listen. I'll put my audio down and I'll ask Jade to do hers so that we don't echo out the place, and then we will play this little track and see what it does.
I don't think I am a good science brain. I think I'm a good philosophy of science brain. So my dad, you know, when I was a teenager and friends of mine were sort of getting into alternative medicine or reading the Celestine Prophecy, and every now and then I'd have a chat with my dad and I'd say, you know, oh, my friend's cured his asthma with the Buteyko method, or, you know, I'm not even sure if that particular thing I mentioned has data or not. But anyway, and my dad would just be so boring about it. He'd be, well, I mean, either there's evidence or there's not. And at that age, I was like, that's just a boring way to look at things. I had an adolescent sort of relativism, which, by the way, being an arts type, was promoted all through my university degree. This idea that knowledge is a relativistic construct and that science is a patriarchal, you know, not always, but it was always there shimmering. And in order to be a good 90s West Australian chilled guy, you know, long haired, barefoot guy, it required you to be more open-minded than just, you know, data. And so I guess I was in that headspace, although never fully down the rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. And then I did, in first year uni, among the many wonderful things I learned in the English department and the visual arts department and having sex with my girlfriend, I also did philosophy 100 and psychology 100, and then more philosophy and psych units through second year as well. And I think that really appealed to me, the clear pathway. And it still does. It excites me that there have been developed over thousands of years of humanity fantastic heuristics about how best to solve problems, how best.
So, Jade, is that What do you think about that in terms of artistic? So, for those that don't know, Tim is from Western Australia, and he was talking about being, like a long-haired lefty hippie, which he talks about a lot of the time. And he talks about the fact that he loves science, but he also loves the artistic side of things and likes creating stuff. And I thought it was really interesting because when I was growing up, you kind of had to be one or the other. You were either the arty sort of person, or you were like the maths nerd. Did you fall into either of those categories, or both, or can you surf between the two?
I absolutely think you can surf between the two. As I said at the beginning of the show, in my year 12, music was the predominant thing, but we had science in there as well. And I think you can combine logic. I don't like calling it science. I prefer to call it logic.
I like it.
Because logic can, just like science can change, and not all things are proven. And they're theories. They're theories, and people, when you say science, people go, "Well, that's proof." It's like not always.
Yeah.
Not always. Things are theories until Because I was watching something the other day on the core of the Earth. And it was a flat Earth thing. There was a debate between two people, and they're trying to say that there's no proof of the core of the Earth, and it's like, well, you're absolutely right. There is no proof of it, absolutely, but there's proof of other things that can be calculated to assume that there is, until something better comes along. There are theories. Everything is theoretical, and music is theoretical. There is theory behind music. So I do think that there is a correlation between the two, but there's also a correlation between music and conspiracy theories, which may not always be true. There definitely is, yeah? Because without conspiracy theories, even if they are outlandish, it's still fun to go down those rabbit holes and hopefully maintain a sense of remembering the ropes up there so you can pull yourself out in case you fall in too deep. So when you fall in too deep to some things, that you can get a bit messy, like the Queen's a lizard and all these weird things. But
Queen's not a lizard?
Look, they may be parasites, but they're not lizards, all right? People aren't lizards. But conspiracies can be, conspiracies aren't all bad things. Conspiracies are fun things to talk about. And there have been a lot of conspiracies that have come to light, just like science has been proven wrong. So, and rock and roll and music is about theory at the same time as being adventurous. I say it all the time on my channel. If you're not being dangerous with your music's dead in the water, man. 'Cause that's where music is. It's got to be dangerous. It's got to have that amount of danger to it, or it just is stale.
Well, we didn't plan this, but and I'm going to jump around here because I've got a few different clips to play here. But do you think, and you've just basically said that you do think this, but do you think that we as musicians and creators are a little bit too careful, a little bit too risk averse when it comes to creating our music and putting our stuff out there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was like that myself. It's only been the last few years that I've started to get less careful and be more, you know what, that'll do. There are some things I'm still very protective over with my music that I hold on to but that's completely different. That's not me like being a perfectionist. That's about timing and the way things have worked out in the world. I'm talking about my Dread Circus album, which has taken all this time to create, and people are like, when's it coming out? And but there are other things too where people think, oh, this Desir album I've been working on, it's taken so long. Unfortunately, that's because of my health. But yeah, I see a lot of people like obsessing and being too careful about things, and like, but this has to be the most perfect mix of all time. It's like, trust me, if you release that, there is never going to be somebody in the audience watching it, say on YML, who goes, well, that was great, but that kick drum on the second part of the first verse was completely wrong. No, if it's got feeling and you've taken the danger to throw your heart on the line with it, or play something that you haven't played before, that's the danger of the unknown, taking a risk that makes rock and roll exciting. And yeah, I think a lot of rock is very stale these days. But is that the artist's fault or the the
Or the listener?
system around.
Is it the system? Is it the systemic problem of no one wanting to take risks because that's not rewarded? And we'll talk about that later as well, because the whole education thing, and without getting deep, look, we will get a little bit deep here tonight because we are talking about music education. And when you talk about education and then you talk about like why we educate ourselves and the whole sort of structured education system that has many faults and failings, then it is always going to be a bit like this. But yeah, it's interesting stuff. Why don't we hear from Tim Minchin and his views on risk here? I'll throw myself down. We'll bring this one up and take a quick listen to Tim and Lawrence chatting about this here.
Is coddling, it can blind you to other things. For example, there's another whole really interesting conversation about risk and how we manage risk, and how we seem to have become a society that is uncomfortable with risk. However, there's another conversation in that Venn diagram, which is about information overload, right? And I think all these things intercept because the internet and just media and communication and travel and everything has meant we know too much. And that makes us anxious about risk. So there are, this coddling, which sounds like a flaw in how we parent, is actually a result of putting through a normal parent filter all this information about the local pedophile, which you used to not have. And not having it was fine because the odds on something happening are so near zero that you would discard it off any graph. But now we know. And not only do we have the information, but that information is promoted by algorithms and promoted by the way of 24-hour news. So there's a big conversation, but I think our natural paucity of our natural inability to really contextualize risk, which we're seeing when we get to the vaccine conversation, which I'm sure we will.
And we won't get to the vaccine conversation there because that's another topic for another day. But what do you think about that, Jade, in terms of that? The reason I'll put that out there for music is that I think that the analog or the relevance there for music is that a lot of people sort of think that same way, where that they see other people that put their music out there that may get flamed by other people, or they might get the negative stuff that happens in forums and in groups and by their family or their friends or other people, and then they don't take the risk of actually getting their music out there. Is that something that you see in the general community or that you've come across before?
Yeah, look, the fear is the mind killer.
Yeah,
it's a saying that's been around for a long time, and unless you're always going to get that negativity. The more you throw things, the more you try to overcome that fear and be brave and take risks and throw that out there, the more opportunity there is for that kind of feedback to come back to you. Yeah. It's not about anyone getting it more than another. It is the more risk you take, the more it's coming back to you. And the risk is that you don't learn how to understand how to deal with it. That's an important risk you need to. If you take the risk to not protect yourself around that and understand how to shield yourself against that stuff, then that's when the risk becomes a problem of putting out music. Not only is fear a mind killer, knowledge is power. Just speaking on what Tim said there with knowledge, we have so much knowledge at the moment, and we are in a world where everything's on tap. Unfortunately, what comes with that comes the power to abuse that knowledge, and that's why I think we live in a world at the moment where so many people are divided. Because there's so much conflicting information, and those who control the information control the division. And it doesn't really matter on what's right. If just don't want to talk about vaccines and that stuff. What's right or wrong about that stuff or about anything doesn't really matter. What is important is that people realize that the information that is being controlled is always able to be manipulated by those controlling it. And it's the same with risk with music. Remember, you control the amount of risk that you want to put out there. Yeah,
you get to choose. Yep.
Yeah, and you've got the power to decide on the comments that come back to you over your creativity. You have that power to close down that window, to not respond. I used to respond to that stuff and write these huge responses that were 3 paragraphs, and every line was a banger, man, and it put that person right in their place. And you know that they were reading that going, oh my God, that is me. Oh my God. And they even sent a picture of me back with a penis drawn on my head. Oh my God. And I would go to such lengths to destroy people. And now I just move on. There's no point, because it's just wasting my energy, you know?
It's so true. And look, if you're wondering why I got Jade on for this particular show, it is because I knew that she would have amazing things to say. And you did a song called World Divided that could basically be the entire context of what we're talking about here today. But look, again, it is more, bringing it back to music, it is more about that, you having the choice. And the information overload is that if you look at everything, like if I read and took to heart every single comment that was put on this channel, and if you did the same, and every email that came through, and every message on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and everywhere else, I've always said this, I would be like in the fetal position, rocking in the corner, because I would feel really bad, because there's too much information. As Tim said in that clip, there's too much information. It's information overload. And if you look at it, like I've had I said to you before when we were chatting offline that I had like a few days off where I just didn't look at anything online, and I was hanging out with the kids, and I was sitting in the paddle and pool, and I was drinking beers, and I was like having the best time, and I didn't watch the news for 3 days. My mental health went from here to like right through the sky, because I didn't have all that information. I wasn't checking my Facebook statuses. I wasn't reading the news. I wasn't listening to all the numbers that were coming through every day that we're all like obsessed with. And it was the same with my music. I got super musically creative because I didn't read one negative thing from anyone about anything that I was putting out in the world. And suddenly everything felt good and harmonious and wonderful. And, you know, I was watching the Metalhead Hippie, who's someone that you and I both know and love, Jeff over at the Metalhead Hippie. And I'm just like, I want to be a hippie. I want to be living in the 70s where you're just a hippie living in a commune, playing your acoustic guitar. Everyone's just like, groovy, man. That was a rad vibes. And no one's giving you any shit, because that would be so cool. But yeah.
Pete, how do you deal with positive comments? This is something I'm going to talk about on one of my Warts series, because that's up again soon. How do you deal with positive comments?
How do I deal with positive comments? Well, first of all, by the way, I summoned the hippie and he popped into the chat. So boom, right there. But how do I deal with positive comments? Yeah, it is really hard. What I actually learned, and I read a book one time that was talking about how you actually deal with the haters. And I think it was called Hug Your Haters. And it basically said this, which is that basically don't ignore, but don't take to heart what your bottom 10% and your top 10% say. So the truth is in the middle 80. So the truth is really in those people that just say, hey, this was good, but have you tried thinking about this? Or, yeah, I don't mind this, but this is okay. The people that are the absolute trolls that are hating on you, they deserve 0% of your time, because they're just out there to tell you that you're shit, regardless of what you do. So yeah, just push them to one side. And as much as your fans are great, and the people that give me positive comments are wonderful, and I love you to bits, you're at this level where you're actually, if you like what I do and you like what's going on the channel, it's not that I don't want to interact with you. I do. I love you all. But you're not going to give me the truth sometimes. And it's like, I call it the American Idol syndrome. So it's like your mum. When you're singing, when you're learning to sing or you're learning to play the clarinet, I played the clarinet, and I'm sure my mum many times said, oh dear, that sounded quite good actually. I would have been sounding just god awful. But yeah, that American Idol syndrome of your close friends, your family, the people that love you the most, they just don't want to cause you any pain. And they see the people that are doing the bad things. So that's been my rule of thumb for the last couple of years, is the middle 80, that's where your truth is. What about yourself, Jade? How do you handle? Because you get a lot of positive praise as well. I know that, like everyone, you get the bullshit at the bottom end, but you get the positive stuff of people that really love what you do. How do you manage that? How does that affect you in terms of how you go?
Well, firstly, I get different hate than what you get. And it's not from this community either. I get hate on another level that's totally off from this community, and it's just about being trans. And it's just, it's evil stuff. Like it's it's like death threats. It's stuff I wish you were dead and all that kind of stuff. That it used to bother me. These days I just laugh. I really think it's funny. But positive comments, I look at it the same as you, as an Amazon review. Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever you're buying something on Amazon, right, look at the top reviews, look at the bottom reviews, and delete them, and read the middle reviews, because that's where you're gonna get the most important information that's going to help you get better.
Those 3-star reviews. That's
exactly.
What you want.
Am I going to buy this 3-star review? It was okay, but it broke halfway through. Fair, balanced. There you go. Not it was crap. It's the best thing in the entire world. Look, I struggle with positive comments because I'll be 100% honest. Back in the day when I was younger and singing in bands for because I've been singing in bands from a very young age. I became very conceited and very arrogant, and I used to take a lot of drugs, and I used to not realize how much I treated people like shit. And these days, since becoming sick and just going through the life I have, I tend to try to put other people first. Like, I don't really care, like, it's like even Hippie's here. I had a 7-hour marathon with Hippie sitting there trying to help him set up his mixer. And Hippie will testify this. I said to him in that 7 hours, I was like, hey, man, if ever, somebody else's song comes up, always play it over mine. Always. Put me at the bottom of the list. You know what I mean? So I struggle with positive comments. I don't know how to take them. Because I work really hard to, have a good voice and all this kind of stuff. So, and I'm not trying to be arrogant here. I know I've got a good voice because I've worked my ass off for it.
Yep.
And just touching on one other thing that you mentioned there, the American Idol syndrome. Yeah. When I used to teach vocals, I had these two types of students that would come because we're talking about lessons, and it'd be the students who would come. Who'd be like, my friends say I'm amazing and my parents say I'm great. And then they open their mouth and go, somebody left some beer in this ashtray. And they sound like
That was
Barney
amazing,
Gumble.
Barney. That was amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
There you go, positive.
No, and I would struggle to take them on as students because the problem is, and before you even get to teaching somebody how to sing, right? The problem is trying to break that mold that they have been conditioned to believe that they're already incredible, and they're not. And so it's really hard in those situations where people are being told, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing, and they're not. They need somebody to help them get amazing. So I would always be super excited when I would get students that would come who would, and I swear it's always the way. I'm not really a good singer. I just sing in the shower. And then they open their mouth and you go, wow, you're awesome. Like, here's something to work with, because they haven't had that positive reinforcement that is bullshit. And it's another reason too, where a lot of, and I'm not dogging on all the shows we have in the community of playing people's music. I do like to give feedback on things because it is important to let people know where they're going wrong without saying this is wrong. Because you can't tell someone their song is wrong, but maybe it's just a technique that's slightly wrong, like flambeing something,
Flambe. I like it.
Flambe.
Very, very cool. It's a really good segue, and we didn't plan any of this because I honestly didn't give Jade any heads up on anything we're talking about here today, except I said music education. That's the main theme here. So she knew nothing. But the next clip I want to play you is about teachers. So I'm going to say to Jade, start thinking about the importance of teachers and mentors that you've had in your music and education in general journey. And I want to play this little clip from Tim talking to Lawrence Krauss about music education here right now.
Also, I was incredibly, and this says something about my personality, something probably quite boring. I was incredibly influenced by whether or not I liked the teacher. I was not one of these people that just got on with it. I'm like, if I don't like this teacher, they can suck my, I just, no, it wasn't even that. It wasn't even that chippy. It was just like, I'm not interested in that. That person's boring.
Well, I think, but that's not so unusual, Tim. I think, I've been a teacher, and I was a teacher ostensibly for 40 years, but I never really felt like I was teaching in a sense. I mean, you learn yourself. You talk about being autodidactic, but everyone is in a sense. You only learn what you teach yourself at some level. And
That's right.
what a teacher does, it seems to me, and I thought of my role as a teacher, someone as a guide, but a motivator, really more than anything. A motivator, because that motivates someone to go home and learn, but really not the actual classroom time with them.
That's hard, because that is a talent. I have publicly stated so many times how much I admire teachers and how I think they are undervalued in commercially and just philosophically in our society. And I really think, and if I hadn't have ended up doing what I was doing, I hope I would have been a teacher, and I hope I would have been good, because I do think my brain is good at passing information and putting it in packages that are fun.
Exactly. Packaging.
So Jade, teachers, how important are they, and how important is it for you to be entertained and motivated when you're trying to learn something, music or otherwise? What do you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. The stuffy teacher is crap. In my opinion, the teacher that can get down with you on a level and actually give a shit about what you care about with music, and that's the way to go. Somebody who not only wants to teach you the techniques of whatever particular thing, like for me it was singing, or guitar, whatever it is, not only because technique is important, I believe, but also it is understanding, like why my school thing was so great in year 12. Not only did we have these lessons and learn to play all these covers within this band, we also learned how to go on the road. We learned how to deal with each other as people, and these things are super important. They're life skills. Life skills are, and you want to have somebody who is a mentor over a teacher. And it's kind of how I used to teach when I did it. Like I've said on some of the vocal shows I've done, when I would get the first student to come in for my vocal lessons, the first thing I would do is find out, are they being mollycoddled by friends around them and telling them that they're good when they're not? So that once we can cross that and see where we're at, or if there's actually somebody who's just shy and actually singing from within themselves, so we can determine that. And then the next phase wasn't to just start teaching them. It was to see, are you going to come back? Because that's the most important thing. Are you going to come back? Are you going to commit to this? So I would give them a copy of Georgia on My Mind to take away to sing. And I don't care if you, and most people didn't know the song, but that particular song has every single note of the scale in it. And I would always tell them to go away, jump on YouTube, find the particular song that's in your key and understand what you can sing to comfortably, and then come back the next week and sing that song to me. And what you would find is that would either push people to come back or not. And it was simple. I didn't have to waste any time pushing somebody. If they didn't come back, see ya. Don't want to be here, because I don't have time to waste on that. I want to be somebody's mentor, friend, and build them up, as well as teach them the techniques. But if they don't want to learn, you can't force a horse to drink the water.
Yep, absolutely. You can lead them, and it doesn't work. Clayton Von Kluge here says, I didn't see Tim's point, but the teacher-student relationship is important on a social level. Do you have to be friends with your teacher, Jade? Or can it be a respectful relationship, or does it have to be a friendship relationship?
I liked being a friend with boundaries. Like you have to set boundaries with everything, The boundaries are important, definitely to set. You can be a friend without, knocking on their door.
Come over for beers.
Say, I just thought I'd call in for a cup of tea. You don't want to be creepy. Hey, I'm at your window.
Have you been practicing your scales today? It has been shown encouragement produces more than admonishment. Yeah, I mean, look, and I agree that you do have to encourage people. And you said it before, like when we do shows where we talk about people's music, you don't go, oh, that was shit for 12 reasons, and here's all 12 of them. You go, here's what you did well, here's what you may need to work on. And sometimes there's a little bit more that they need to work on than they're doing well. And like you say, it is more, I don't know, for me, in terms of music and education, it's kind of, natural talent is one thing, but you mentioned it before, and I loved what you said about that around, are they going to come back? And I actually think that resilience and repetition and people that are actually going to bounce back, and I did a show recently where I talked about resilience as like my rant, and I read this cool definition that resilience isn't how you keep going and push through, it's how you bounce back. So it's how you actually come back when something knocks you down and how you actually come back. So again, like you said about your vocal students, how you bounce back from that and are you going to come back? If I tell you to go away and work on something, are you going to run away with your tail between your legs and never come back? Or are you going to go away and like work your ass off and then come back and say, see Jade, I worked on it and it's better? What?
Well, because we live in different times now too. Thank you, internet, and thank you, Twitter. I blame Twitter for everything. The woes of the world is Twitter, man. No, but it feels like these days when you are in a teaching position, you have to preface everything so carefully because people get attacked so much online that, and because we live in a world now where text is our primary communication, texting has become much more important than phone calls. We sit on Twitter, we read Facebook, and it's so hard because context is taken out of text and emotion and expression. So people take things the wrong way very easily. So I find myself these days, even on the Patreon, over on my Patreon, every week I master people's songs, but we have such a tight-knit group, but I still find myself prefacing going, right, so I'm going to talk about the mix that you had there. Now, that mix in particular, and I don't want you to get upset about this. Take this with love from my heart because it is, and I want you to get better. And by the time I've said all that, I'm like, oh my God, what was I going to say about the song? I've prefaced so much, I've wrapped so much cotton wool around this situation because I don't want people to get upset. But because it's hard for people to discern constructive criticism from assholes because there's so many assholes out there at the moment that just want to rub their shit in your face constantly.
There are, and it's actually, Patrick, our friend at the Garage Band Guide, raised a really good point. He says, I'm a great believer that haters are a good thing. Understanding that your music isn't for everyone and shouldn't be is important lesson to learn. And I just wanted to call that out, that Patrick's 100% correct, that there's a very big difference between people that are not into your stuff. And I know that I say this, and I know Thomas has a show, and Metalhead Hippie has a show, and Ron Ward, who's here on the chat, has a show. We all play other people's music. And what I say every time I play other people's music is, don't go and subscribe to a channel just because you feel guilty that that person deserves your subscription. If you don't like their music, you don't like their style of music, you don't think their music is rocking, it's not your jam, that's cool. Because guess what? Not everyone's going to like everyone else's music, and not everyone's going to like your music. And even for you and me and Patrick, there are some people that love Patrick and hate me and you. I'm sorry to say, but it's the case. There's some people that love you and hate me and Patrick. There's some people that love me and hate you. It's just the way it goes, that some people will like tune in to different people on their frequency and their vibe or their method or their whatever you want to call it. It's going to be different. So that's actually 100% okay. So I wanted to call that out, that Patrick is a wise man.
He is. He does very short, sparse shows and has lots of views and subscribers. I don't know how he does it for the amount of output. You have a lot of output as well, but you repeat a lot. And me, I just talk crap for too long and tell too many stupid jokes. I mean, we all have our ups, our shortcomings, and our positives, And the thing is, I think for commenting on other people's music, one thing I have tried to change so hard, I don't hate stuff anymore. I try my hardest not to hate things because really, there's only a very few things in this world I hate. And, they happen to be the horrible people who send some really dark stuff because I never get to respond to them. So in my mind, I just hate them. But I dislike a lot of stuff. But disliking things gives you the opportunity to maybe one day like it. If you hate something, you are just closing your mind down to the possibilities that maybe you're just like in the wrong space at the wrong time, to understand this stuff. But you don't have. You're right. I agree, Pete. You don't have to like every music, and and the thing is, you don't have to sit there and tell people you don't like their music either.
That is a great part too to that, which I will add to that, which is it's okay to scroll past sometimes. People, I know it's really tempting on that forum. It's really tempting to tell people what you really think of what they're doing, but it's okay to scroll past sometimes.
Jog on.
Jog on, do your thing. We've got a few great comments here. So Mark Tanner says, shout out to Mark Tanner, by the way, very cool dude, one of the moderators of many of the shows around the community here. I went through high school years in music scholarship, classical. My mother was a director at the music at the school, an amazingly inspiring educator. Always got honest feedback. I can only imagine that would be rough if your mum was the one laying it down. That can be rough. Lily Pillies, hello to Manny over at the Lily Pillies. There are some shocker teachers out there. I can testify as a dad of 3. Yeah, there are some.
My first singing teacher in school, we were standing there in class. She was this big biker chick, had an amazing voice, huge biker chick, long hair, really beautiful looking as well. And we were all standing there because we were all jokers in our band at school. It was a 12-piece band. And we're all like joking. And she had us lined up. And she's like, right, who's the joker out of all of you? And of course, I'm the one laughing all the time. Somebody throws a piece of paper and she looks straight at me and goes, it's you, isn't it? The singer. It's always the singer. And she picked up the waste bin full of paper and garbage and a banana skin in it. And she tipped it over my head. And I just went, you fat bitch. And I stormed out. And we had the worst start off, right? But after that, I've cooled down and I came back and was like, hey, that wasn't actually me who did that. I have a problem with laughing and I'm a bit of an instigator and people tend to like look at me and do things to get me to like fire. And I'm really sorry about that. I'm going to try and change that. And me and her ended up becoming really close. And so I learned some of the best vocal things from her in the end because I mistook her for being a serious teacher by the way she addressed us all. But once you actually realized and understood, she was a mate. And that was the best teacher, you know.
I like it. And by the way, Jade accused me before of repeating myself. And I'd just like to say that if you want to check out my studio gear guide over here at studiolivetoday.com/gear, you can see all the gear that I use here in the home studio. Sorry, I had to do that. And that's the thing. You have to laugh at yourself. You have to be able to. You have to know how to take the piss out of yourself because. And look, it's probably a mechanism I learned to being a nerd at school. That when I had to retreat to the library for chess club and all the bloody the jocks, is that what you call them in the US? All the footy guys were out playing footy, and I was sitting in the computer lab. You do have to learn to make fun of yourself. Oh, there you go. There's Jade's recommended
There's my recommended gear guide.
There's your gear guide. You can head over to jadestar.com.au. I don't know. Do you have jadestar.com.au/gear? That would be cool if you did.
That's gear/haddywrapionios.com.
There you go. Good stuff. Let's go to another clip here because I want to play this one because I think this for creators, like we talked a lot about sort of music adjacent stuff here, but this is a great clip from Tim Minchin during this interview about his experience because I think you'll be surprised. The accolades that I gave before about him being an amazing pianist, like he's literally next level pianist. Like if you've never heard him play piano, he's just insane, ridiculous. Composer, like amazing person and a creative type. So I think you'll find this one interesting to learn a little bit more about his background, about his education in music. It might surprise and potentially inspire you. So take a listen to this one.
I don't know where we're going to go, which is really good, but I do want to go back to early times still. I haven't gotten to the present. Tim, yeah.
Let's go back to little Timmy.
Let's go back to little Timmy, who claimed he didn't have much aptitude for piano, but you played at the piano, but you said you didn't read music. But obviously, at some point, you got an advanced degree in contemporary music. So I assume you have to know how to read music.
I still can't read music. No.
Oh, come on!
It's not an advanced degree. It was an advanced certificate, and it was more like what we call a TAFE course. It wasn't a community college course, but it was a 2-year. Course at the time it was called an advanced certificate in commercial music because it's basically starting down at sort of Delta blues and working your way through all the sort of styles that you could play in contemporary music and then just putting the toe in the water of jazz, and that was the end of the course. Little bit of theory, little bit of history, and a lot of practical stuff. But yeah, I went to do that course hoping I would be able to reverse time and learn how to read and sight read and stuff. And it didn't work. I was too far gone. But I did learn a lot of stuff. And I have a pretty good understanding of how music works. If you put a sheet music in front of me, unless it's got just chords I can do. But yeah, dots I can't do. Don't
Oh,
show
really?
me dots.
Still? Oh, wow, that's fascinating.
Can't
I
read
figured
them,
that-
can't write them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, hold on, can't write them. So when you compose, how do you compose?
I've got Logic Audio Pro open here. I opened it in case you wanted me to record a backup.
Yeah.
And I sit down and I play that piano, and it feeds MIDI musical instrument digital interface information into that. And I play in the flute line, and I play in the bass line, and I play in the drum line. I do 8 vocal lines, and then I send it all to my genius orchestrator, and they use their ears. And sometimes I send stems so they can hear all the different tracks, and they do it for me. And often, in the case of Matilda and Groundhog Day, my orchestrator, Chris Nightingale, he's not just transcribing, he also has a huge creative input in how it comes out.
Wow. Now, hold on.
So Tim Minchin doesn't read music, doesn't know how to write music, and gets an orchestrator to do all his hard work. He just sits there in Logic. Does that sound like what any of us do? Do you sit there with your Mac and play MIDI into Logic, and then that's the music that you create? Are we any different from Tim Minchin? What's your reaction to that, Jade?
Well, I'm shocked. I know Tim Minchin. I've hung out with him a little bit at the comedy festival when I did the comedy festival. 2 years in a row, and he gave me some tickets to his show, which was cool, and I got to drink with him and his wife afterwards in the comedy lounge.
Very cool.
And you know what? Just beforehand, I've been trying to get him on the show for the last...
Well, he did mention in that interview. Here's a tip: his sister's now working post C word. I don't say that word. Post C word. His sister's now working for him. So apparently, she's like doing a lot of his assistant and interview stuff. So there you go. So Lawrence said that he was talking to his sister, and then so that sounds like that's the gateway. So good luck. So, keep at it.
So look, he's an amazing musician. Yeah, he always to me seemed like he was classically trained because he's just so good. And you've seen him, you know how good he is.
Oh, absolutely.
And for you guys who don't know, check out his song Ginger. Only a ginger can go another ginger. It is the best song on the planet. It's so funny. It's so clever. He's so witty. I mean, that's the thing about Tim Minchin. Like, he does come across like a well-educated, well-trained musician with a great sense of humanity with what he writes. Like, he really does care. And he seems like everything that he does is very thought out and with a lot of care. So that's interesting to see that he's just sitting there with the same stuff as us. And but surprising, in this day and age, everyone's doing it.
Totally, and it's interesting if you watch the rest of the interview. And it's 2 hours, and I know everyone doesn't have 2 hours, but it is actually fascinating for a lot of reasons. But for music creators or for people that are like into music and into music education, it's amazing stuff. So I do recommend it. But he talks afterwards about that exact thing, and Lawrence says to him, so what would happen if you were here 50 years ago? How would you actually do that? And he basically says, I guess I'd have to have another smart person near me. And to me, it says 2 things. It says, number one, we live in the future where you can actually do this stuff, where he can just send stems over to his orchestrator, where he can just send MIDI data over because he uses Logic, not GarageBand iOS. That doesn't export MIDI, but we'll talk about that another day. But also number 2.
It will soon.
Well, you reckon? You call
There's an app for that.
Oh, there you go. There is an app for that. But I forgot my second point then because I got excited there. I'm like, MIDI's going out there. But yeah, no, the second point is that I've completely forgotten. But no, it is very cool that you can actually do this. We live in the future and we're able to actually do this sort of stuff, which you wouldn't have been able to do 50 years ago. You'd need someone smarter. Oh, the second point was that surround yourself with smarter people. For goodness sake, don't be the dickhead that surrounds yourself with dumber people to make yourself feel superior and good, because you need smart people around. You need people much smarter than you that have different skills and different talents. And I can relate to this in terms of I'm very bad at programming and drums. And when I write a song, I just hand it over to Jade and say, can you play some cool drums on this? Because my drums suck. And she does. And I know that many people in this community do the same thing, where you collaborate because the sum of the parts, that what you get, the whole, is always better than the sum of the parts. So,
don't be Mr. Know-It-All from Rocky and Bullwinkle, because you're only limiting yourself. You're not leaving any room to learn. That's the first most important thing. That's how I look at every single day. I wake up every single day. I know I have a responsibility to actually show these apps. But at the same time, I'm sitting there like 2 days before swatting like I was at school to cram all this stuff in. You know what? I finish every show and go, oh man, I forgot that. Oh no, because you can't, and you can't beat yourself up over this stuff. So, just don't be Mr. Know-it-all, because it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Speaking about that app, Pete, it is real. It's called a MIDI tape recorder.
Okay.
It's just had an update too. So basically, it's just had an update to be able to plug into GarageBand on iOS and send MIDI data out of GarageBand into something else. So it's happening. It's happening. I'll be doing a review on it soon. So basically, it came out a few weeks ago, and it's an open source thing. It's still very underbaked, and I've been hanging off on doing a show on it until he implements all these things. But I reckon give it a month, and he will have implemented everything. And then I'm going to bang it out.
I like it.
We'll see how we go.
Bang it out. There you go. You heard it here first, folks. No, I like it. Bang it out. Just go bang it out. We have about, we've technically got 5 minutes left. You know that I always go long, Jade. And if you've got an extra, we've got 2 more clips to play here. Things that I wanted to finish off with. So we're probably going to go late here, folks. So settle in, because I wanted to play this one. This next clip here is about anxiety, something that I know about. I know you know about. I know many creative types know about, and the anxiety that comes along with learning stuff. So why don't we listen to Lawrence and Tim chat here about anxiety and its connection with learning.
That humor is a really important part to, as you say, to disarm people, to get them to open up in a way that makes them more amenable to letting other things come in without immediately putting up a wall that says, no, this is just too hard, or this is too boring.
And it shortcuts fear. In a way, it shortcuts anxiety, because if you're laughing, you're less anxious, and a huge barrier to knowledge is anxiety. Maybe anxiety about the subject, but the sort of meta anxiety about whether, am I getting this? Am I getting this? Am I getting this? And if you're laughing, damn right you're getting it.
Yeah, exactly. If you can tell. In fact, it's always interesting to me when I've given lectures in countries where they have to have a simultaneous translator. And it's always I'm telling jokes, and it's always interesting to me to see if anyone laughs 5 or 10 seconds later, because then I get a sense. I'm trying to see if they haven't, then I'm not reaching them at all. It's really it's really an unnerving way of doing things. But that it.
So, Jade, on that one, how important is it to, not only to entertain, but to make someone laugh and to have fun when they're learning, to overcome that fear and anxiety of learning new things?
Super important. Super important. It is the key of my show. I always look at my show as not being a tutorial show. It is a infotainment show. There is entertainment behind it. I'm trying to be a dick and at least make some people laugh at myself, laugh at each other. It's very important. I wish, the one thing I really wish was there was another channel like mine out there, so I could watch that to learn the thing I have to do the next day, instead of some of the droll and dreary stuff I have to watch where people are just like, and you do this and you do that.
Not naming names, Jade.
No. I'm not attacking anybody, but
no.
And I'm not even talking about like the apps I do in particular. There's so many things. There are these characters that have no character, and you have to have a valve to release, because it'll do your head in. And speaking of anxiety, I have very controversial thoughts on anxiety, and I'm just going to say them because I believe them. And if you don't, it is my opinion. Embrace your anxiety, man. Embrace your anxiety. Love your anxiety, because some of the greatest artists in the world face anxiety every single day. They go on stage, like Lady Gaga is one of them, man. She deals with anxiety all the time, and she's massive, right? Anxiety is absolutely natural. It's a part of who you are. It is a part of your emotional system. So you will see when people go on stage, even the most seasoned artists still, before they go on stage, get that feeling of anxiety beforehand. And you will find the majority of fantastic artists who go on stage and perform, they perform their best that moment before they go on stage where they had that anxiety, because there's that or you can call it butterflies, you can call it extreme anxiety, whatever it is. I'm a believer of not trying to cloud your anxiety and control it and drug it and put a cloud over it and make it foggy. Understand it, embrace it, love it, and realize that it is a part. It can be used to make your performances better. It can make you better. It can make you laugh. It can make you pull things out of your hat that you never knew that you had. It's definitely how I've gone about my business. And laughter he's exactly right. Laughter is the best way to overcome anxiety. Laugh at yourself. Do something utterly stupid. Put yourself in a position where, you know, you're making a fool of yourself, because the jester always is the highest paid clown in the king's throne. Without the jester, the kings would have killed far more people.
Yeah, no, it's and I've mentioned a bunch of times before that I've suffered with anxiety, and I'm more than happy to share my experiences here. And I know many people in this community have as well. I wrote a freaking song about anxiety, and I bared my soul and bared everything about it. But I 100% agree, because in the learning and the experience, and again, it all comes back to education and learning, funnily enough, because when I started suffering from anxiety and panic attacks and the like, I did a whole bunch of research, and I worked out, okay, what's happening? What is the physiological thing that's happening here? What is the mental thing? And what is the connection between the physical and the mental? And then I went, actually, for the research I've done, this anxiety is actually a form of excitement. The difference between being super excited and pumped and ready to roll and being super anxious and worried is actually about a 2% difference. Like, metaphysically, it's almost exactly the same. So if you can change that, and I actually read a book from Simon Sinek, who's an Australian, New Zealand, South African author, public speaker, and he talked about this, and he talked about that he learned that he used to be terrified of flying. And I've told this story a bunch of times before. He used to be terrified. I'll say a quick version. Terrified of flying, and he hated going on planes. And then he realized that if he had this routine where instead of that, he just like took it as like a ride. He's like, I get to go to the airport, and every time I go to the airport, I'm going to buy myself a Coke, and then I'm going to have this delicious Coke, and then it's like custard slice or whatever I have. And then I'm going to get on the plane, and I'm going to sit in the plane. And then when the turbulence comes, it's going to be like a roller coaster, because I know that this is way safer than crossing the street or driving a car down the main street of my town. So once you get past all of that and you realize that the connection is so close, then you can just continue on and do your thing. And the number one fear I have, bringing it all the way back to music and what you were saying before, is that too many people are feeling that anxiety and immediately going the other way. Instead of turning into it, it's like when you're on icy roads, you don't turn away from the skid, you always turn into the skid. And if you can find a way to turn into the skid and own your own anxiety and own your own feelings, then you're going to push through it. You're going to be the better person for it, and you're going to be able to share your gift. And that's what we want at the end of the day. We want more of you to share more of your talent, more of your music with more people. Like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's where we're at.
There's one time I do suffer from anxiety a fair bit, but I've actually over the years been able to identify it and know when it's hitting me, and it's around doing live gigs in IRL. And I have one coming up, and I know what's going to happen. The day before, I am going to be crippled with pains in the guts. I know it. And I used to get it when I was a kid, when I played football and stuff. And my dad used to go, "You're just trying to get out of playing football." And it's like, no. It's a worry that I'm not good enough, right? And even back then, it was always the day before the game. I always got freaked out. And I know this gig coming up on the 12th, it's my first gig in real life in 2 years, but I know as soon as I get there, I'm going to be on stage and absolutely carve that stage up, and I'm going to be the best thing there, because I've learned to take that anxiety the day before, deal with it, sit there, deal with it, get through it, and then go, all right, that's done, let's move on. Now it's not going to hit me when I get there, and just get there and just smash it. I'm going to kill this gig. I'm so excited.
Get it out. And we'll talk about an upcoming gig soon that you are no doubt going to smash and kill just shortly. Yeah. Ron, our own Rock and Ronnie Ward here says, I'm so nervous before shows I'm almost sick, but I start joking immediately. And that's the thing. And I think Metalhead Hippie said just down here, it was Patrick. You always come across so cool, calm and collected. And that's the thing. When you can learn, look, there's a lot of masking going on here. And I know some forms of masking. By the way, some forms of anxiety and depression, you need clinical help. Let's not just say that just the power of positive thought does not heal everything. So if you need help, you need help, and please seek help. So don't let us be saying that. But yeah, it is the way for many people. Like I'm the same. The second before I hit the button, Jade saw it just 5 minutes before this one. I'm like, I don't even know how to use my own mixer. I just told people I love it. And I was reverbing and just doing all sorts of things. So yeah, you can have those moments, and then again, it's how you bounce back. It's not how you push through and the fact that you never have problems. It's how you bounce back from the problems and how you get through. And eventually, as I tell my children, if you do things enough, you build a habit, and then you can keep doing them, and you can keep doing them, and everything's easier the 5th and 10th and 20th time. And right back to music, it's the same with that. Your first song is probably going to be your worst song. Your 5th song's probably going to be a bit better. Your 10th song will be good. Your 20th song will be probably pretty good, and then your 50th song's probably going to be amazing. So just keep at it. Keep doing it.
Trust me. You're going to play live. You're going to have live shows on YouTube or wherever you are. You are going to have these things where you walk away and go, oh, I nailed that. Yep. And everyone's going to say to you, that was crap. And you're going to have those other shows where you go, that was crap. That was the worst performance of my life. And everyone's going to come up and say, you were so good tonight. I swear to God, it always happens. But I love how Ron wears wigs on his show too, because I know Ron really well. And, you know, we sat through, 8 months trying to get his show set up on many Skype calls. You know, and I would do it all again and help Ron because I love Ron so much, you know. But Ron, he's got these wigs, and like we talk about all the time, he's like, right on, man. Is my show going okay, man? I'm like, yeah, man. Part of the reason I watch it is to hear Ron stuff up and mute the mic by accident and be like, you know, because that's funny. It's Ron. If he tried to change that and make it absolutely like this robotic, perfect situation, it's impossible because perfection doesn't exist, yeah? He's perfect as he is. He's perfect making those mistakes, just being Ron. You know, that's why I watch.
It's true. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we could say all the cliches. We could say mistakes make you better, fail harder, you know, everyone starts at zero. All the shit we say on all of our shows all the time. But it's so true. And it's fun. It's interesting, like reinforcing this stuff with my children and with other people that I talk to. Yeah, I just see the same repeated patterns. And like, I don't have all the answers because my experience is different to yours, and your experience is different to everyone in this live chat, and everyone in this live chat is different to everyone that's watching on the replay. So that's a good segue because I wanted to play this one final clip because we are already 5 minutes over. I'm going to play this one final clip.
5 minutes.
I know, right?
You daredevil.
I'm living on the edge, man. But I want to play this clip. And look, this gets a bit heavy, but I wanted to let Tim have a rant because everyone loves a rant, yeah? And towards the end of this interview, and again, I totally recommend you go watch this whole interview because it's 2 hours that it'll fly by, and he's such a smart and just like interesting character that you want to watch this. So I'll play this last clip, and this is about the fact that your experience is going to differ and other people are going to have different experiences. So let's take it away here, Mr. Tim Minchin, on this one.
I should be, at my age and with my education and my experience in communication, I should be able to try not to hurt too many people. And as a lefty, as someone who puts my, you know, and I'm this is gross, but, you know, I literally put a big percentage of my post-tax income into charities that are mostly about elevating education, and mostly it's you know, there's Indigenous Australians and homeless people in New York. My charity, you can look it all up on the internet where my money goes. It's not enough, and I'll get better, but you know, I leverage my power to try, not enough, nowhere near enough, to try to do little bits to promote the things I believe in. Equality and mobility and education and the arts and education. However, I have a bit of a basis from which to say this, which is that we have to always work on understanding individual people, not races, not groups, that's good knowledge, but mostly we have to understand every human. You have not walked through the flames they've walked through. You don't know whether that entitled white guy was abused by his uncle or whether that black guy in ripped jeans is a multimillionaire. You just don't. Yeah. You don't know whether they have nefarious ideas. You don't know whether they're trying to push their own barrow. You don't know whether they're nasty regardless of their color. You don't know whether they're nice regardless of their color. You don't know where their prejudices come from, but they come from somewhere. They've been taught them. You know, you don't know whether they've got a tumor. You don't know whether their kids just died. You don't know whether that lady in the park with the phone is having a panic attack. You don't know whether that woman closing down the Black Kids Lemonade stand is mentally ill and has just buried her husband and all she wants is not to have kids on the street. You don't know.
You don't know. And I wanted to, again, just put that out there because that is something that I've learnt a lot in recent times, is that until you've walked a mile in someone's shoes, you don't know. And how hard is it to actually understand what other people are going through? So does that resonate with you, Jade? Is that something you've come across?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look, for a long time in my life, I used to judge people very much. And as it turned out, it was always the case that it was me hating myself. And I've talked about this at length with my transition and all this stuff. As a trans person, right, I don't expect anybody to understand walking in my shoes. You can't. Yep. You can't unless you're trans, right? Yep. And I think there's a lot of there's a lot of trans people who expect everybody to just understand it and get on board with it, and they can't. So they get defensive about it and get upset about it and think that they're being attacked for it, and it's not the case. It's just that they can't. But what you can do is listen, yeah, and you can listen to those experiences of what people are having, those shared experience, what they're telling you, and take it on board for what it is, because that's all you can do. You can't tell if, as Tim said, you can't tell if people are lying. You can't tell if people are secretly a pedo behind the scenes. You can't tell any of this stuff until it's exposed. So you can't place judgment. But you can take people at face value, and it's the best way to go, and listen to their experiences. Unfortunately, as we started off with this show tonight, we live in a world where people control the information that is out there. And when people are controlling the information, that is where divide and conquer comes in. And we are living in a very divided world at the moment, mostly politically. And at the end of the day, I learned over the last couple of years, mainly because of a president in the US, it wasn't that I was left or right or hated other people's views. It was I hated one polarizing figure who represented shit. That's all it was. So now I've tried to back off on the judgment of the political stuff the last year. I've really pulled back on it because I understand wherever your thoughts are politically, on whatever take it is. For the most part, we all want the best for each other. We want to be happy, yeah? We do. But it is the people that control the narrative that are taking advantage of it, and it's due to money and stuff like that. But, I think listening to each other is really important, and that's getting harder because there's so much noise. There's just so much noise, and that noise is really pointless stuff, and it's a hard thing to split the noise from the stories. I'll close off with this. Some of the most important lessons we can take as a species are from tribes that don't exist anymore and are currently getting their values and their traditions are getting pushed out. And the traditions that we hang on to as a species currently are very worthless. And why were those tribes why were they so important? Because they passed on their stories. They didn't, there wasn't any noise, so they could pass on the stories with clarity. And we all know about the hearsay stories, Chinese whispers, how they change over time. But that didn't happen because stories were told with love and people listened to those stories. And we really are, as a species, missing out on all these indigenous cultures because they were really look, they may have got things wrong about the sun being God and all this weird stuff, but and they got the gods must be crazy where they chased a Coke bottle around, and it's getting silly. But no, we are missing out because there's so much noise. But I think the most important thing is to listen to each other's stories and just be kind. And save the hate, man, because hate's a really strong word,
Yeah.
Hate is something, hate's getting polyps.
Yep. No. Agree. Yeah, but 2022, I'm legitimately trying not to hate. Look, it's tough and it's hard and it's not an easy thing to do because there's so many things. And again, like I said, as we started off here, and we were talking about music education today, but whenever you talk about music, I know it's easy. It's easy to say, look, let's just separate music from all the other things. Let's separate music from love and society and politics and religion and hatred and love, all that stuff. It's almost impossible because music is about all that. Like that is the context of music and the content of music. And when it comes to education, and that was the topic of today, music education is about all of those things as well. Because and I didn't even play. There was a couple of clips there that I was going to play, but we ran way out of time. We didn't even play the clips about how some of those things have affected education, how online learning has made it much harder for people to actually learn about these sort of things in terms of not having that physical face-to-face connection that they have with people, and how that the consumerism and the money side of things has changed music. You know it, and I know it, and everyone in this community knows it. There's a lot of people out there that are making music that they don't care about, they're not passionate about, that they just want to put out there because they think it's the best opportunity for them to make the most money from their music. And if you're not passionate about it, I don't know why you're bothering at the end of the day. But
if you're not making music that makes you feel something, makes you feel something about your own music, nobody else is going to feel it. It just is what it is, you know. If you write something in your cult, you're just sitting there going, well, that's a song.
Yeah.
Everyone else is going to feel the exact same way, man. You got to throw your heart on a plate. You got to tell those stories. I think who wrote it just there? I think it was Maffey's Garden. Music has to be the story. It has to be the storytelling now. It sure does.
Yep.
Tell the stories, share the stories. With so much information, we're in a great position as artists right now. I know things seem really bad with lockdowns and all this inconvenience, but you know what? We've still got this space to tell these stories, to remind each other that we're still human. We're still feeling. We may not be able to hug each other at the moment. All this stuff, but we still love and care. And nothing's changed. We're still here. Don't give up hope. And that's what music is every single day to me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, people will be the important part of music of the next 10 years and 50 years and 100 years, because it was and it always will be and it always shall be, because you can't create music. I mean, they've tried. Algorithms have tried to create music, but it just doesn't sound right because it's just not people and it's not stories and it's not telling stories. I mean, maybe robots one day when the robots come, when it's RoboCop or Terminator 2 Judgment Day, they will all take us over, but it's going to be a while. Look, I know we got a bit deep and heavy there towards the end, but I wanted to kind of go full circle around from the start of it around music education, and then kind of do a big sort of 360 around it and go around the world with that stuff, because I think it's important to think about and to talk about. And I knew that having Jade on here, we'd be able to talk about it and get into the nitty gritty of music and music education and why it's so important and why it's important for you to keep creating music. And at the risk of being like one of those wanky commercial people that are telling you to go and do something, what you should go and do right now is go over to How to App on iOS and check out Jade Starr, because she's got some pretty amazing stuff coming up. Why don't you let folks know what's coming up in the next week here? Because look at all these reminders I got to set here. What's happening in the next week? What's all this business? What's Loopy Pro for those that don't know?
Tomorrow, in 12 hours time, less than that, we've got Laurie's Mishmosh coming on from her channel, Laurie's Mishmosh. She's an amazing human being, fun, caring, loving. She's just playing piano. She loves collaborating with people. She's inspirational. She's going to come on. So come and join us. We're going to be swearing our tits off, and we'll have the swear jar open. After that, I'm doing some covers again on the weekend, the opening hour. Just some really obscure, weird covers that people might not know.
Are you doing Ween? Play a Ween song. That'd be cool.
No Ween. I haven't actually planned what I'm doing yet. I'll do it the day before. It's always the day before, Pete.
Right, exactly. I'm doing the same. Yeah.
And next week is 4 days in a row of Loopy. I'm going to write, record, and release a song in 4 days using new software that's just come out. I've only done a tutorial on it. I've hardly spent as much time as what I should have on it. And I'm going to make a song using Loopy, which is an amazing app. Really, really cool app. And I'm looking forward to doing that. So that's super cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's what's coming up.
That is super awesome, and look, I know we're only 10 hours away from that, and look, I know you only sleep like what 2 hours a night because you just like create, sleep, create. But no, you do need to get your beauty rest and get up to match with Laurie's mishmosh. And once you find out what a mishmosh is, can you shoot me a message? Because
I think I already know what it is too. And can I say too, because we did mention, I have a gig coming up, man.
Yes, please tell us about your gig. Can you? I'll put you in solo layout here. Tell everyone about the epic gig happening in Melbourne.
There it is. So if you are in Melbourne, in Australia, there it is, the Trans Pride concert. It's a real gig, man. It's in front of it's going to be in front of a lot of people. Saturday, 12th of February. I'm pretty high up the list, so it's a government sponsored thing. Like it's a pretty cool thing. So if you are in Melbourne, come along. It's going to be really ace. I think I'm only playing like 4 songs, but I have a 20-minute slot. And just to give you an idea, here's what the stage looks like. Look at this. Look how cool that is. It's at Federation Square.
That's epic.
It's going to be ace, and I'm going to try and stream it onto my channel. So if you can't be there and you're from another country, I will try and stream it for you all to watch live. But that's... Man, really exciting. I can't wait to play an actual gig in front of people and hopefully not catch viruses and all that.
Well, I was going to say, I was looking at that crowd going, they're probably not going to be quite as close to each other this year, Jade. There'll probably be a little bit more spacing and distancing going on there, considering the current environment in Melbourne. We've got a question from Ashley here. Is Ron coming up? No, is Mike, Creative Source, coming up? No, featured artist. I think he's taken a week off for Featured Artist Live. So, we're not running into mic time, because otherwise I'd be in trouble. He'd be like, "Oi, Johns, you went over time. You're coming into Featured Art." That's my mic for Creative Source. That was the only.
2022. We're going to teach Pete how to do.
Oi, Governor, why are you coming here, right? You don't skip.
I can hear. Oh goodness me!
Mike's out on his boat. He's just pulled up and he's just like, "Oh, what's John's up to?" And he's just like, "Oh no, rough."
Hey, I want to thank you, Pete, for having me on the show as always.
Thank you.
I love coming on your show. We're good mates. I've broke bread with you at your house. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing this caper. So as always, thank you so much for the platform. Well,
we were talking about that you, a couple of things. You were on the very first, I was trying to find it, but I can't. You were on the very first Creator Town Hall because you inspired me to kind of do this and just relax a bit. I used to do a Q&A show and it got very stressful, and you're like, why don't you just do a show where you just like chat to people and have fun? I'm like, that's a bloody good idea. So I did. Yeah. And here we are a year later, I'm still doing it. It was about this time last year that you were here in Adelaide. That's probably not going to happen this year because of very many reasons. But
I swear that pizza I had at your house, I'll never forget. It was such a good pizza, man.
Good pizza. And I took you out to the best noodle place that's now closed here in Adelaide.
Yeah, noodles were good too. We had some fine alcohol. We went out to the festival. Oh man,
you brought a 6-pack of that Chang beer, that Chinese beer that was super strong, and we both got 3 beers each, and we were anyone's. But that's a story for another day. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you to my guest Jade Starr for enlightening us with her knowledge, and I hope you got some bit of motivation. I guess the one thing I want you to leave here today going is that it actually doesn't matter, because look, I meant to talk about, I put it on the channel here and I ask questions, and there's surveys and things over there to ask you about your education. But I think, as you heard from Tim mention there, whether you don't even know how to read a note, whether you don't know your every good boy deserves fruit or your FACEs, or you are a complete virtuoso, as long as you're using it and creating music and sharing your art and putting your gift out into the world, it actually doesn't matter. Just keep doing your thing. So as we say at the end of every show, please be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other, and keep creating, and we'll see you next time. Ciao for now.
Bye.